Ambassador Sevuin watched the old recording for the 100th time. His scaled fingers traced the holographic image of humans standing in the Treaty Hall of Eridani 900 years ago. They looked so small back then, so grateful to be allowed a seat at the galactic table. His eyes moved across the human delegation, diplomats in borrowed formal wear, scientists still shaking from the war, and behind them, almost invisible, a young woman in a military uniform. A captain, maybe. Nobody important. Sevuin did not notice her. Nobody ever noticed her until it was far too late. General Una Vasquez Okonkwo stood at the window of her quarters on Diplomatic Station 12. Earth hung in the distance like a blue marble. She was 147 years old. Human longevity technology had given her an extra century of life. Most days, she wondered if that was a gift or a punishment. Her silver hair was pulled back tight. Her uniform carried no medals. She had stopped wearing them 60 years ago. Too heavy. Not the metal. The memories attached to them. Her assistant entered without knocking. "General, the intelligence report you requested." She did not turn from the window. "How long?" 3 months, maybe 4. She nodded slowly. 3 months. 4, if she was lucky. The Kael'thari had finally decided she was too dangerous to live. They were right, of course, just not in the way they thought. The Treaty of Eridani 4 had ended the First Contact War. 30 years of blood and fire. Humanity had been outnumbered 1,000 to 1. Their ships were slower, their weapons were weaker, their technology was centuries behind the Galactic Empire. They fought anyway. The Empire called human tactics insane. Humans called them Tuesday. When the war ended, the treaty demanded one thing from humanity: demilitarize. No warships, no military academies, no standing armies. In exchange, the Empire would grant humans full citizenship, trade rights, and protection. The galaxy believed humans had surrendered. The galaxy was wrong. General Vasquez had spent 900 years building something in the darkness. Not weapons, not fleets, insurance. Shadow infrastructure spread across 1,000 systems. Sleeper cells passed down through generations. Generation ships hidden in the empty void between stars, waiting for a signal that she prayed would never come. She was not a warmonger. She was a realist. Peace required trust, and she had never trusted the Empire. Not once, not for a single day. High Archon Valathos of the Kael'thari Empire sat in his private chambers and read the assassination order one more time. Clean language, formal structure. The death of a human general, described in words that made it sound like gardening. Surgical removal of destabilizing elements. He signed it without hesitation. His advisor, an ancient Thessian named Mora, who had fought in the First Contact War, watched from the corner. Her 4 eyes showed nothing. "You disapprove," Valathos said. "I remember," Mora replied. "Remember what? What humans look like when they stop pretending to be civilized." Valathos laughed. It was a cold sound. "The old woman is a relic, a symbol. Humans are herd animals. Remove the shepherd, and the sheep will scatter." Mora said nothing. She had learned long ago that some lessons could not be taught, they had to be survived. General Vasquez began writing letters that night. Not on official channels, not through secure military networks. She wrote by hand, on paper, using ink. Old human traditions for old human messages. She wrote to soldiers who had served under her great-grandfather. She wrote to their children, their grandchildren, their great-great-grandchildren. She wrote to merchants and scientists and teachers and farmers. She wrote to humans scattered across 1,000 worlds who had never held a weapon and never wanted to. Each letter was different. Each letter was personal. Each letter ended with the same phrase, written in a dead language from old Earth. Morituri te salutant. We who are about to die salute you. Her assistant found her the next morning still writing. General, you should sleep. I'll sleep when I'm dead. She paused. Which will be soon. So, General, I've been holding something back for 900 years. She looked up at him. Her eyes were the eyes of someone who had seen too much and forgotten nothing. Not the Empire. Not the aliens. Us. I've been holding back humanity from becoming what we become when everything is taken from us. She returned to her writing. What happens when you're gone? The assistant asked. That depends on them. Her pen moved across the paper. I spent a century being the galaxy's favorite pet human, smiling at their parties, bowing at their ceremonies. They called me the human who kneels. The pen stopped. They never asked why I was kneeling. Why were you? She smiled. It was not a kind smile, because if I stood up, I might never stop, and neither would anyone else. 3 months passed. The Galactic Unity Festival filled Diplomatic Station 12 with light and music. 1,000 species celebrated 900 years of peace. Ambassadors danced. Merchants traded. Children of 100 worlds played together in the observation gardens. General Vasquez attended in her formal uniform. She smiled. She shook hands. She allowed herself to be photographed with every dignitary who asked. High Archon Velethos approached her with a ceremonial wineglass. To 900 years of harmony, General. To peace, she replied. She raised the glass. She drank. She finished her speech about cooperation and trust and the bonds between species. Her voice never wavered. Her hands never shook. Then she sat down, folded her hands in her lap, and died with her eyes open, still looking at Velethos. He would later tell investigators that she winked at him in that final moment. Nobody believed him. Across human space, letters began to arrive. Old soldiers opened them with trembling hands. Young people opened them with confusion. Parents opened them and wept without knowing why. Inside each envelope was a set of coordinates, a date 3 months away, a single question written in the general's handwriting. Do you remember what we are? And at the bottom, her final words to a species she had protected from itself for 900 years. I kept the wolf asleep. Now I am gone. The choice is yours. Be sheep, or remember. The galaxy celebrated the death of a tired old woman. They did not notice the silence spreading through human space. They did not see the old uniforms being pulled from storage. They did not hear the prayers being whispered in 100 languages, all asking the same thing. Forgive us for what we are about to become. The poison was elegant, untraceable, designed by the finest Kael'thari chemists to mimic natural heart failure in human biology. High Archon Velethos had paid a fortune for it. He considered it money well spent. The old woman was dead. The threat was eliminated. The galaxy could move forward. He expected human outrage, protests in the streets, demands for investigation, angry ambassadors pounding tables and threatening consequences they could never deliver. What he got was silence. 72 hours after General Vasquez died, every human in the Galactic Empire stopped. Not rioting, not fleeing, not fighting, stopping. Human ambassadors excused themselves from meetings, politely, quietly. They did not say where they were going. Human merchants closed their shops without explanation. Human workers simply did not appear for their shifts. Human children stopped attending schools. The Kael'thari administrators sent messages, then demands, then threats. No response. Security forces were dispatched to human neighborhoods. They found homes empty, businesses locked, streets silent. 12 billion humans across imperial space. Gone. Not dead, not hidden, just absent. Withdrawn into themselves, like turtles pulling into shells. Waiting. On Earth, in a small apartment in the Lagos Bogota megacity, a young woman named Ada Ora opened a letter. Her hands shook as she read it. Her grandmother sat beside her, 93 years old, former military, former everything. "I don't understand," Ada Ora whispered. "What does it mean? What are we supposed to do?" Her grandmother took the letter gently, read it once, twice. Then she began to cry. Not sad tears, something older than sadness. "It means she's gone," the old woman's voice cracked. "It means the leash is off." "What leash?" She walked to a closet that had been locked for 50 years. She opened it. Inside hung a uniform so old the fabric had started to yellow. "Grandma, 1 minute." Her grandmother's voice was steady now. "We observe 1 minute of silence. Every human, everywhere, all at once. And then we remember what we are." High Archon Velithos received reports from across the Empire. Human population centers had gone dark. Communication had ceased. Even humans who had lived among aliens for generations had disappeared into the silence. "What are they doing?" he demanded. His intelligence chief had no answer. "We don't know, Archon. Our sources inside human communities have gone quiet as well. They're planning something. Almost certainly. Find out what." But his people found nothing. Because humans were not planning, they were waiting. And there is no intelligence to gather from people who are simply still. The minute of silence ended at exactly midnight, Earth Standard Time. Across 1,000 worlds, humans opened their letters together. They read the coordinates, they read the date, they read the question, "Do you remember what we are?" And then they read the answer the general had left for them, the final paragraph she had spent a century preparing. "I kept the wolf asleep for 900 years. Now I am gone. The choice is yours. Be sheep or remember." Mora the Thessian veteran found Velithos in his chambers. He was drinking, celebrating. "You should not be happy," she said. "Why not? The old woman is dead. Humanity's symbol of resistance is gone. They will grieve, negotiate, and fall back in line." "No." Mora sat down without being invited. She was too old to care about protocol. "I've fought humans in the First Contact War. We outnumbered them 1,000 to 1. Better ships, better weapons, better everything." She stared at the wall. "We lost 40 million soldiers in 30 years. Ancient history. History is never ancient to those who lived it." Mora looked at him directly. All 4 of her eyes were cold. "Do you know why we agreed to the treaty?" "Because we won." "We didn't win. We survived. There is a difference." She leaned forward. "Humans don't fight like other species. When they are cornered, they don't surrender. They adapt. They change. They become something else. Something that doesn't care about living, only about making sure the enemy doesn't live either. Barbarians. Survivors, the most dangerous kind, the kind who have nothing left to lose." Velithos waved his hand dismissively. "That was 900 years ago. They've been civilized, domesticated. They've forgotten how to be dangerous." "I'm resigning my position, Archon." "Why?" "Because I'm old enough to remember what humans look like when they stop pretending to be civilized. And I don't want to be here when they remember." 3 months passed. The coordinates in the general's letters pointed to empty space, a region between star systems where nothing existed. No planets, no stations, no resources. Imperial scouts were sent to investigate. They found nothing. Velithos relaxed. The human threat was overblown. Old women and their dramatic letters. Meaningless gestures from a defeated species. Then the scout's sensors detected movement. They came out of faster-than-light travel in perfect formation. Not dozens of ships, not hundreds. 12,000. Generation ships the size of small moons. Warships that had been hiding in the void for 9 centuries. Carriers and destroyers and vessels that defied imperial classification. The human shadow fleet. Built in secret. Crewed by generations of families who had lived their entire lives preparing for a day everyone prayed would never come. And now it had. The lead ship broadcast on all frequencies. Every species in the galaxy heard it. A woman's voice, recorded a century earlier, calm and clear. This is General Una Vasquez Okonkwo. If you are hearing this, I am dead, and you killed me. I want you to understand something before what comes next. Pause. I was not your jailer. I was your shield. Not from us, from what we become when you take everything from us. Longer pause. For 900 years, I kept the wolf asleep. I made humanity smile and bow and kneel, because I believed peace was possible. I believed we could be more than what we were bred to be. Her voice hardened. You have proven me wrong. The fleet you are looking at has been waiting since before your grandfather was born. 12,000 ships, 300 million crew, families who gave up sunlight and planets and normal lives so that humanity would never be helpless again. I spent my entire life hoping they would never be needed. You have made them necessary. Final pause. You should have let me die of old age. Admiral Kofi Okonkwo sat in the command chair of the flagship Remembrance. He was 67 years old, the general's great-great-nephew. He had spent his whole life preparing for a day he never wanted to see. His hands were steady, his heart was not. Admiral, his first officer said, the Empire is requesting communication. Ignore them. Sir? We don't talk to them yet. We let them look at us first. We let them count our ships. We let them understand that we have been here the whole time, watching them celebrate our submission. He stared at the view screen. Thousands of human vessels filled the darkness. Then, he said quietly, we let them wonder what else we've been hiding. The Galactic Empire had not fought a real war in 400 years. Their fleets were ceremonial. Their soldiers were parade decorations. Their admirals had trained on simulations and theory, never on blood and fire. They had forgotten what war looked like. Humanity was about to remind them. Admiral Kofi Okonkwo stood before the assembled commanders of the Shadow Fleet. 300 faces watched him on screens across 1,000 ships. Some were old soldiers who had waited their entire lives for this moment. Some were children of soldiers, raised on stories and secrets. Some were ordinary people who had never expected to wear uniforms. All of them were afraid. Good, Okonkwo thought. Fear meant they understood what was coming. I'm not going to give you a speech about glory, he said. There is no glory in what we're about to do. There is only necessity. He pulled up a hologram of General Vasquez, old, silver-haired, tired. This woman spent 127 years keeping the peace. She smiled at aliens who looked down on us. She bowed to emperors who thought we were animals. She swallowed her pride every single day so that human children could grow up without knowing war. He let the silence stretch. They killed her for it. They killed her and called it statecraft. They killed her and expected us to do nothing. His voice hardened. If we do nothing, we teach the galaxy that human lives are negotiable, that our blood is cheap, that anyone can murder our people and face no consequences. He looked directly into the camera. I refuse to teach them that lesson. Not all humans wanted war. Millions had lived peacefully in the Empire for generations. They had alien friends, alien co-workers, alien families. The Shadow Fleet's existence was a shock to them as much as anyone. On a station in the Thessian sector, a human woman named Chen argued with her Kael'thari husband. "This is insane," she said. "We can't fight the entire empire." "Your people are about to try," he replied. "They're not my people. I've never even been to Earth," she insisted. Her husband took her hand. His scales were warm against her skin. "They don't care where you were born. They care what you are. To them you are human first. Everything else is second." "And to you?" she asked. He was quiet for a long moment. "To me, you are my wife. But I am afraid of what your species will become. I am afraid of what this will make you." Shen had no answer. She was afraid too. Admiral Okonkwo broadcast on all Imperial frequencies. His message was simple. "We do not want your planets. We do not want your resources. We do not want to rule you. We want High Archon Valathos. We want everyone who authorized the assassination, everyone who planned it, everyone who executed it. We want them delivered to human space within 30 days. This is not negotiation. This is notification. Refuse, and we will demonstrate why our ancestors called war the last argument of kings." He paused. "You have made us remember what we are. Now we will make you remember." The empire erupted in chaos. Factions argued. Politicians screamed. Some demanded immediate surrender of Valathos. Others called the human bluff. A species that had been peaceful for 9 centuries couldn't possibly be serious at war. Valathos himself went on galactic broadcast. His scales gleamed under the studio lights. His voice dripped with contempt. "Humanity threatens us with ships that were obsolete before my grandfather was born. They hide in the darkness like cowards and expect us to tremble." It was meant to be reassuring. We will not be intimidated by theatrical gestures from a defeated species. The Empire has faced greater threats than 12,000 ancient vessels crewed by farmers and merchants. He waved dismissively. "They are bluffing." Day 29. Admiral Okonkwo released a single piece of archival footage. It had been classified for 900 years. Suppressed, erased from Imperial records. The Battle of Thuban. During the First Contact War, a Kael'thari colony fleet had destroyed a human civilian transport. 3,000 men, women, and children, killed without warning, without mercy, without reason. The humans responded. The footage showed what happened to the Kael'thari colony fleet. What happened to the military bases that supported it. What happened to the orbital stations and the ground installations and the supply lines. The video was 14 minutes long. Nobody who watched it could finish it. Valathos watched it alone in his chambers. When it ended, he sat in the darkness for 3 hours without moving. His advisors found him still sitting there at midnight. "Archon, the deadline is tomorrow. What are your orders?" Valathos did not answer for a long time. "They won't really do it," he finally said. "They've been civilized too long. They've forgotten how. The footage suggests otherwise." "That was 900 years ago. They're different now." His advisor hesitated. "Archon, with respect, perhaps we should consider." "No." Valathos stood. His scales had gone pale with something that might have been fear, or might have been stubbornness. "If we surrender to their demands, we show weakness. Every species in the Empire will see us bow to human threats. If we don't surrender, they might." "They won't," Valathos's voice cracked. "They can't. They're not capable of it anymore." He was lying to himself. He knew it. His advisor knew it. Neither of them said anything. Day 30. The deadline passed. On the Bridge of the Remembrance, Admiral Okonkwo received the confirmation. No surrender. No delivery of prisoners. No response at all. He sat in his command chair. His hands were shaking. He had spent his whole life preparing for this moment and hoping it would never come. "Admiral?" His first officer's voice was quiet. "Your orders?" Okonkwo thought of his great-great-aunt, her letters, her hope, her faith, that humanity could be more than what evolution had made them. He thought of the footage from Thuban. He thought of 3,000 civilians burning in the void. He thought of a tired old woman who spent 127 years trying to prevent this exact moment. Initiate Doctrine of Cain. His first officer hesitated. Sir, which variant? The doctrine had multiple phases, multiple levels of response. Some were surgical, some were comprehensive. Some were things that had only ever existed on paper because nobody believed they would ever be used. Okonkwo closed his eyes. All of them. Across human space the order spread. In bedrooms and bridges and bunkers, humans received the signal they had prayed would never come. Old soldiers kissed their families goodbye. Young people held their children one last time. Engineers powered up systems that had been dormant for generations. The wolf was awake, and it was hungry. The Imperial Navy mobilized in full force. 300,000 warships, crews from a dozen species, the largest military gathering in 4 centuries. They expected a battle. They got a lesson. The Shadow Fleet did not engage the Imperial Navy. They bypassed it completely. For 900 years, human merchants had traveled the galaxy. They had mapped every system, every trade route, every cosmic anomaly. They had discovered faster-than-light corridors the Empire did not know existed. Hidden paths between stars that shaved days off travel times. Paths that led directly to the Empire's most vulnerable points. The attack came simultaneously across 200 locations. Not military targets, infrastructure. FTL relay stations went dark. Communication hubs exploded in silence. Fuel depots vanished in carefully controlled detonations. The nervous system of galactic civilization was severed in a single coordinated strike. In 47 hours, the Galactic Empire lost the ability to coordinate. No planets were bombed, no cities were burned, no civilians were targeted, just silence. Every system cut off from every other, every fleet suddenly, terrifyingly alone. The humans called it the Quiet War. The Empire called it the end of everything they knew. Admiral Okonkwo took the flagship to Kael'thar Prime, the homeworld of the species that had killed General Vasquez, the heart of the Empire's power. His fleet did not fire a single shot. They simply appeared in orbit, thousands of vessels hanging in the sky like a judgment waiting to fall. Okonkwo broadcast to the planet below, "Your High Archon killed our general. He thought we would negotiate. He thought we would file complaints and demand investigations, and ultimately accept whatever scraps of justice you offered." Pause. "We don't negotiate anymore. We remove." He let the words sink in. "I am giving you 6 hours to deliver Velithos to my custody. Not to discuss, not to debate, to deliver. If you do not, I will begin removing your ability to ever threaten humanity again. I will do this one piece of infrastructure at a time. I will be patient. I will be thorough, and I will not stop until there is nothing left of your civilization, except a warning to the rest of the galaxy." 6 hours. The Kael'thari government fractured within 3 hours. Velithos's own council turned on him. The nobles who had supported the assassination suddenly developed amnesia. The admirals who had praised his bold action discovered their loyalty had limits. They arrested him in his own chambers. He was still wearing his ceremonial robes. His scales had gone completely white with terror. "This is treason," he hissed. "This is survival," his former ally replied. "You promised us the humans would scatter. You promised us they had forgotten how to fight. I was wrong. Yes, you were." They dragged him to a shuttle and launched him toward the human fleet before the deadline expired. The trial was public. Every species in the galaxy watched. Every world with a functioning receiver tuned in. Billions of beings witnessed the High Archon of the Kael'thari Empire stand before human judges and answer for his crimes. The evidence was overwhelming. Communications, financial records, testimony from his own subordinates who fell over themselves to cooperate in exchange for mercy. He spoke of statecraft and necessity and the threat humanity posed to galactic stability. The human prosecutor listened politely. Then she asked a single question. High Archon, General Vasquez was 147 years old. She had devoted her entire life to maintaining peace between our species. She attended your festivals. She respected your customs. She spent over a century being mocked by your people and called the human who kneels. Pause. Why did you kill her? Velithos had no answer that would satisfy anyone, not even himself. The sentence was delivered 3 days later. Not death. The humans refused to execute him. Instead, they exiled him to a barren moon in an empty system, alone, with supplies calculated to last exactly 127 years, the same number of years General Vasquez had spent keeping the peace. He would die of old age, alone, knowing that the entire galaxy knew what he had done. The humans called it mercy. Every other species called it the cruelest punishment they had ever witnessed. The war, if it could be called a war, lasted 8 months. Total human casualties, 340. Total Imperial casualties, 12,000, mostly from infrastructure collapses and accidents during the chaos. Total planets destroyed, 0. Total species exterminated, 0. The humans could have done worse. Everyone knew it. The footage from Thuban proved what they were capable of. The surgical precision of the Quiet War proved they had the ability to strike anywhere, anytime, without warning. That they chose restraint was somehow more terrifying than any atrocity. Mora the Thessian watched the trial's conclusion from a bar on a neutral station. She was 400 years old. She had fought in the First Contact War. She had tried to warn Velithos. He had not listened. A young Kelthari sat beside her, barely an adult, weeping. Why? The young one asked. Why didn't they just destroy us, bomb our worlds, kill our people? It would have been cleaner. Mora drank slowly. The alcohol barely affected her anymore. Nothing much did. Because they're not monsters. That's what you never understood. That's what Velithos never understood. Then what are they? Mora set down her glass. They're human. They love harder than any species in the galaxy. They grieve deeper. They forgive slower. Killing you would have been easy, quick, final. She gestured at the screen, showing Velithos's sentence. This is harder. This requires patience and planning and the discipline to stop when every instinct screams to keep going. This is what they do to people who hurt their family. The young Kelthari shuddered. I don't understand. No, you don't. Mora stood to leave. And that's exactly why you should be afraid. Not of what they did, of what they chose not to do. Admiral Okonkwo visited General Vasquez's memorial on Earth after the trial. He knelt before her grave. The grass was wet. The sky was gray. It felt right somehow. I didn't want this, he whispered. None of us did. You spent your whole life making sure we would never have to become this again. The wind moved through the trees. I hope you understand. I hope you can forgive us. But even if you can't, we had to show them. We had to make sure they would never forget. He reached up and removed his admiral's insignia, placed it on the stone. I won't wear this again. I can't. Not after what I ordered. He stood. Rest well, Aunt Yuna. The wolves are going back to sleep now. He walked away without looking back. The insignia gleamed on the gravestone, slowly gathering dew. 10 years after the war, a human child on a colony world asked her grandmother a question. What was the general like? The grandmother was 93 years old. She had served under Vasquez. She had carried one of the letters. She had helped build the Shadow Fleet in the darkness between stars. She did not answer for a long time. She was tired, she finally said. So tired. She spent her whole life holding something back. And the worst part? What? She wasn't holding back the Empire. She was holding back us. And she did it because she loved us. Because she knew what we would become if she let go. The child thought about this. Did she love the aliens too? The grandmother smiled. It was a sad smile. I think she did, in her own way. I think that's what made it so hard. There was no new treaty. Humanity refused to sign one. Treaties are for equals who trust each other, the human representative told the Galactic Council. You broke that trust. You murdered our general and expected us to accept it. Now you live with the consequences. The alien delegates shifted uncomfortably. What do you propose instead? The Compact of Cain. Simple terms, brutal terms. Harm a human anywhere in the galaxy and face human justice. Not imperial law, not diplomatic negotiation. Human justice. No appeals, no exceptions, no mercy for those who show none. The galaxy accepted. They had no choice. The Shadow Fleet was still out there, waiting, watching, remembering. But humanity was not unified. Some wanted to stay armed forever, remain the galaxy's nightmare so that no one would ever dare harm them again. Others wanted to go back, to be the humans who built and created and explored, who fell in love with alien art and alien music and alien food, who saw the universe as a wonder to be explored, not a threat to be neutralized. The debate raged for years. Former Admiral Kofi Okonkwo addressed the first post-war Human Congress. He was 77 now. His hair had gone completely gray. His hands still shook sometimes, especially at night. General Vasquez gave us a gift, he said. She gave us 900 years of being something other than warriors. 900 years of being people, scientists, artists, teachers, parents. She held back the darkness so we could live in the light. He paused. We honored her by remembering what we could be when pushed. Now we honor her by choosing what we will be going forward. He looked out at the assembled representatives. I say we choose to be more than our fury. I say we build again. I say we create again. I say we reach out to the galaxy again, not with weapons, but with hands extended in friendship. A murmur spread through the crowd, some approving, some skeptical. But, Okonkwo continued, we build with our eyes open. We build knowing that the Shadow Fleet will always exist. We build knowing that we will never ever forget how to fight. He straightened. We are not sheep. We never were. But we don't have to be wolves either. We can be something else, something new, something the General would have been proud of. I tried to give you a galaxy where you would never need the wolves again. I wanted you to be farmers and poets and fools in love. But I knew, I always knew, the galaxy would eventually remember that we were never tame. We were just patient. So here is my last order, the only one that matters. Win the war, then win the peace. Don't become the monsters they feared. Become the humans I believed in. Be kind. Be curious. Be generous. And when someone tries to hurt your family again, because they will, they always will, show them the same thing we have shown them for 10,000 years. We remember, we adapt, we endure, and we never ever forgive those who hurt our own. With love and teeth, Yuna. 50 years later, a Kelthari child visited a human colony for the first time. Her parents had told her stories. Terrible stories. Stories about a species of warriors who had humiliated her people and left her great-great-grandfather to die alone on a barren moon. She stood in the spaceport, terrified. The humans around her looked so ordinary, laughing, shopping, living their lives. Not monsters at all. A human boy about her age noticed her standing alone. He walked over. "You look lost. Want to get food? There's a place that does this amazing fusion thing. Kael'thari spices with human pasta. It's so good." The Kael'thari girl stared at him. "You don't hate me?" The boy frowned. "Why would I hate you?" "But my people, your leaders, 50 years ago, you weren't even born." He shrugged. "My great-grandfather fought in the war. You know what he told me?" She shook her head. "He said the point wasn't to make anyone afraid forever. The point was to make sure no one ever forgot. And then, after that, we start over." He held out his hand. "I'm Marcus. Want to be friends?" The Kael'thari girl looked at his hand. Small, soft, not the hand of a monster. The hand of a boy who had probably never hurt anyone in his life. She took it. "I'm Phala. Cool name. Come on, the restaurant is this way. You have to try the garlic bread." They walked off together, into the crowd. Somewhere in the vast silence between stars, the Shadow Fleet waited. Patient, eternal, ready. They would always be there. That was the promise humanity had made to itself. Never again would they be caught helpless. Never again would they trust their safety to anyone else. But that didn't mean they had to be at war. The general had understood that. Peace was not the absence of weapons. Peace was the presence of choice. And humanity had chosen to reach out, to be kind to those who deserved kindness, to be friends with those who wanted friendship, and to never ever forget what they were capable of when someone hurt their family. On Earth, in a quiet garden behind the military museum, there was a statue of General Una Vasquez Okonkwo. Not in uniform, not holding a weapon, just an old woman sitting on a bench, looking up at the stars. The plaque beneath it read, "She held back the night for 900 years, and when the night finally came, she made sure we were ready. Not to destroy, to choose, with love and teeth, always." Every year on the anniversary of her death, humans across the galaxy observed 1 minute of silence, in gratitude. And somewhere, in whatever place holds the souls of tired old generals who gave everything for their people, Una Vasquez smiled. The wolves remembered. But they had also learned how to sleep again. And that, in the end, was her greatest victory.